Hey guys, Greg Beast here. I'm in the midst of a doubleheader this week. I was in Dallas last night and I'm now in Memphis, Tennessee, working with Memphis University tomorrow. So while I'm on the road, I wanted to film this week's Beast Lab and I wanted to focus on my stretch routine. Teammates, players that I've known for years, friends from home, and guys that I coach have always made note of my flexibility. Since I was 6, I started doing karate, and over the 10-year span that I was involved with karate, we always focused a lot on our flexibility. And my sensei felt very strongly that flexibility was one of the key components to power and strength and injury prevention. And I thought he was correct. And when I studied at Penn State with kinesiology, I certainly agreed. And I really believe that my flexibility and joint mobility has really contributed the most to my success and my longevity in lacrosse, especially as a face-off guy. So what I thought today I would do is just give you guys the list, my daily stretch routine. I'm not saying it's better or worse than anybody else's, but I do think that it's something that is important, and it's certainly something that a lot of people would ask me to do. So I'm going to go through my full stretch routine in this video, and you guys can feel free to comment below stretches that you like. Also, try these stretches, do the stretch routine for a week, and then comment below and let us know what you guys think. So here we go, starting from the top. So there's two types of basic stretches that I use during this routine. The first one is called a dynamic stretch. The second one is called a static stretch. Without getting overly scientific, just think of a dynamic stretch as a stretch that happens from movement, and a static stretch is one that happens from staying still, okay? So I start with the dynamic stretch first, get the blood flowing, use the motion to create a stretch. I spend a lot of time on the hips, QL, the psoas, and the piriformis, all big deals for any person really, but for athletes specifically, low back issues, all that stuff stems from those areas. So what I'm going to start with is going to be a dynamic stretch. We're going to just toe touch and reach, okay? I'm going to do 5 of each of these things. Come down and up, keep the legs locked, come down low, okay? We'll get 4 and then 5. All right, and then once we have that, then you can either hold a broomstick over your head. A lot of times we hold a lacrosse stick over our heads, but either way, go over top. And you're just gonna go back and forth, 5 each way. And then we'll go across our body back and forth for a low back twist. All right, once we've done that, then we're gonna do a dynamic stretch on our knee. So you're gonna go down on one knee each side, okay? And you're gonna do basically a hip flexor stretch. So we're gonna squeeze this glute in the back, and that's gonna push your hip forward. We're gonna hold our arms over our heads, and that's gonna help create like a longer lever, which puts more tension on that hip flexor, okay? So I'll do, breathe out each time, 5 here, and then I'll switch legs and go from a lateral view so you can see what I'm doing, okay? Squeeze the glute right there, and you'll feel that stretch. That should go straight across the hip flexor, okay? 5 each. And then we're gonna stretch our QL, quadratus lumborum, okay? Basically, it's a very tight muscle that stems from both your from your hips, and it attaches to your spine. We want to decompress that as much as we can. So we're going to take from the front knee here, right, the opposite arm. We're going to push on this hip, and we're going to pull across here, and you're going to feel this open up, okay? And that gets our QL. Neglected stretch for sure for a lot of athletes, okay? And then we'll go twists again on each side. You'll feel that hip flexor. You can feel that psoas a little bit. As you can tell, I try to breathe out on these dynamic stretches as much as I can. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna stand back up, and now we're gonna go into a passive stretch. So, not passive, I'm sorry, static stretch. So one thing we're gonna do, we're gonna start the hamstrings. I like to put my leg up for my hamstring stretches a lot. You don't have to if you don't want to. But the thing that guys screw up all the time is people will turn and they'll stretch like this. This completely takes the main tension off of the hamstring, especially the belly of the hamstring. So what we want to do is we want to make sure your top toe is straight. You want to make sure your bottom toe is straight and your hips are straight. Don't let them deviate to make it easier. And then lock this knee and just push down, and don't round your back. That takes the stretch off of the hammies. Push your hips back and you'll feel immediately. Now, I consider myself a pretty flexible person. I feel this stretch immediately when I do this correctly. Okay? So you're going to breathe out. You can hold for as long as you want. People that are more intermediate or have been doing this a long time, you literally feel the stretch. You kind of feel when the muscle releases. For people that are just starting on static stretches, I would say 10 to 12 seconds. Breathe out, take your time, and then once the stretch doesn't feel too hard anymore, that's when you know the muscle's kind of released. Okay? I like to hold my stretches between 10 and 12 seconds for 2 times each. We'll go 1 time just for the sake of this video. Okay, we'll get both legs. Same thing, hips are straight, pushing down right here. Feel that stretch, nice deep breaths. Feel that stretch right there, okay? Now, what we'll do is we'll go standing groin. So we'll just lean in this way, push on this hip joint, and you'll feel that groin kind of stretch and open up, okay? Same thing, both toes are facing forward, and I'm leaning back against the grain so I can get this stretch. All right, these muscles attach on opposite sides of the joint, so you really have to make sure that everything's locked and you push against it. That way you get the full stretch. Okay, so I don't want to talk too much. I want you to kind of just relax, follow the stretches, okay? And that's what we'll do the rest of the way here. I'll just give you guys the idea of what each stretch is. The ground. Okay, legs in up front, going hamstrings. I like to grab my ankles and pull in. All right, I'm going to come over and tilt the camera down a little bit so you guys can see a little bit more of what I'm doing. Okay. Go with a straddle. Back here, okay, as far out as it's comfortable, obviously. Okay, first we're going to go down to the middle. I'm going to hold each stretch for about 8 to 10 seconds, just for the sake of the video. Once again, we're going to get this QL. We're going to reach across over our head. You feel this QL open up. Really stretch with that arm. You'll feel it, the stretch go into the lat. Bring one leg in. Now, for some of you who have more flexible hamstrings, when you do this particular stretch, you might feel it more on the back side of your hip than you will your hamstring. I actually use this stretch to get that back side of my hip because my hamstrings are pretty flexible. So I'll push back on this knee. Notice how I'm not bouncing in these stretches. Static, we're going to pull in, we're going to hold it, take a few deep breaths. If you feel the muscle release and you want to go further, then you can pull it in tighter and do it again, but you don't want to sit here and bounce on the muscle. You're just going to be pulling on the tendons a lot. Okay, now we'll get quad. One thing that's very prevalent amongst athletes, we have overly developed quads, we have underdeveloped hamstrings strength-wise, but we have tight quads and loose hamstrings. So you end up having a weak, loose muscle and a tight, strong muscle, which creates a huge imbalance. You're asking for knee injuries, hip injuries, etc. So I spend a ton of time, especially since my knee injury in 2011, opening up and stretching the anterior portion of my body. And I've been spending a lot of time over the years developing and strengthening the posterior part of my body. So we have to make sure we stretch our quads, hip flexors as much as we can, keep that open. Can immediately alleviate low back issues that you might have. Okay, so now we're going to get our piriformis. You put your one foot here. Okay, I'm going to put my left leg here. I'm going to fold my right leg over right above the malleolus where that little bump is on the outside of your ankle, so it can kind of sit on my quad. And then I'm going to walk myself in with my hands until I feel a really good stretch. Piriformis is a deep muscle that connects your sacrum to the outside portion of your hip. So if you have a really tight piriformis, you're going to get a ton of low back issues. You might even have sciatica because that nerve runs right under there. So that sciatic nerve, if you're starting to feel that kind of tingling pain down the backside of your butt, there's a very good chance that you need to do some piriformis stretching. Also, get a tennis ball. You can dig in and do soft tissue work with it, or a lacrosse ball if you're a little bit looser. But piriformis is a culprit for sure for a lot of issues for guys and girls. Okay, we'll switch. Now, for those of you who are a little bit more experienced in the stretching stuff, a little kind of dynamic motion I've done in the past is I've kind of rocked this bottom leg back and forth, and you feel the tension go from the medial portion of the piriformis all the way out to the hip. It really kind of feels good, and when you stand up afterwards, you kind of feel like your hips really stretched out. So that's just something that you can try, just a simple little method that I've used over the years. Okay, great. So we got our adductors, we've stretched our hamstrings, okay, we've stretched our piriformis, so we've brought in the knees out, feet in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the lower portion of the leg, gastroc. Okay, so when people talk about calves, they have your gastroc, which is up here, the two bigger muscles. Okay, if you want to see really big versions of those, go look at Jerry Ragonise's Instagram. Then you have the soleus muscles, which are more like a stirrup muscle that go long down here. And then you have the Achilles. So this whole complex needs to be stretched, but you need to stretch it two different ways. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stretch with our leg locked, our knee locked. I'll do it against the wall here. You put one leg up and you stretch. Okay, lock your knee and just kind of step in with that back foot, push closer to the wall. That stretches more the gastroc. That's the higher portion of the calf complex. Then you'll bend your knee and alleviate that, and you'll feel that stretch immediately drop into the Achilles and the soleus area. So that's why when you're doing calf raises with straight legs, it works more the gastroc, and when you bend your knees and do a bended knee calf raise, you'll feel it more lower in your soleus. Two different types of tension. Okay, you can also do it standing in a pyramid like this. Okay, lock that. So right now I'm stretching my left leg. Put the right leg behind that. Keep it straight to get the gastroc stretch. Okay, you can tilt down more if you need to. And then you'll bend that knee and you'll feel the tension slide straight down to the more distal portion of that complex. All right, so a lot of time from here down, obviously. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to go on this plane. We're going to go across the body. We're going to switch this right knee first. I'm going to lay back, cross this right knee, pull down here, reach away from you this way, and look towards the straight arm. And then try to put your head back. Take a deep breath, and then let out. And then pull down hard with that knee. And then we'll switch. All right. Now, we've gotten the hips now, and we've also gotten the posterior portion of the quads. We want to stretch our abdominals out as well, so we do a seal stretch. Lay on your stomach, right here. First, I like to do it a little bit dynamically just to kind of slowly stretch that the abdominal wall. So I'll breathe out and then go right back down. And then you could do like a fifth one and just kind of hold. Okay. Now, what I like to do is bring my knees up after this stretch and then lean back and then reach forward with my arms. You'll feel the lat stretch and the low back stretch. Okay, we go right into cat-cow from here. Chin down, stretch your spine, and then look up. Okay, you can do 5 to 10 of those. Now, get like a couch, table, or maybe the corner of a bed, and we get a spine mobility stretch. So for our thoracic spine, we're going to put our hands up here, and then we're going to kind of dip down right here. Mobility and flexibility are different things. So mobility is kind of the movement of a joint and its ability to kind of stay not locked up, for a better term. Stretching, flexibility is more towards your muscles and how far you can pull something. So we want this thoracic mobility in our spine, the middle part of the back, to be mobile so that you don't get locked up and you start to have your chin go forward. A lot of people are kind of anterior dominant and they don't realize they sit and stand like this. We want to pull this back over time with strengthening the back as well as creating more flexibility for the anterior portion of your body. Okay. All right, so now we'll get the upper body. So you can get cross your arms here. Okay, you do about 10 to 12 seconds each side. Pull that stretch through the elbow on each side. Okay, and then you can also get this lat tricep right here. Reach back, pull the elbow. Then we can get a pec stretch, so you just stand up against the wall, find something that's not going to fall, put your hand up against it, and then just kind of turn away, and you'll feel the pec open up. You'll also feel your biceps open up. Do it on both sides here. This doesn't fall over. There we go. Okay, one of my favorites I like to finish up with, go down on a knee. You're going to try to stretch the very, very proximal portion of your hamstring, okay? You're going to dip this elbow down on the same side to the ground, okay? And you're going to immediately feel that stretch. Okay, bend that knee forward, try to sit into it a little bit. Some people like to wrap their arm around their foot. It's up to you, however you want to do it. Okay, same thing here. Okay, now, one thing, especially for your face-off guys, we spend time on our wrists. All right, we've talked about in the last the grip strength training. We don't want to just sit here and do this stuff. We don't want to just like grab little things. We don't want to do everything that's just a flexor. We want to extend as well. So we want to stretch both ways on these wrists to keep them opened up as much as possible. So what we're going to do is you can sit here, put your hands back this way as far as comfortable. Okay, try to get them completely back. And then sit back to extend the stretch if you need it. And you'll feel the stretch go from the wrists all the way up the forearms into your biceps tendon. then we're gonna do the same thing here. So just take your hands, because this joint is tough, right? We don't wanna mess with it too much. But you wanna get the flex. So you're gonna put the tops of your hands on the ground and then lightly bend down, bend the elbows. Don't put too much weight, and then kind of sit up. Get to the top of the stretch, you come back down, do it nice and light. You'll feel that stretch in the forearms. Back here, okay, brachioradialis, that entire forearm complex. Okay, get some wrist circles to kind of shake them out. That's the stretch routine that I try to do every day. When I'm home, Mrs. Beast and I do it at 6:30 a.m. When I'm on the road, I move furniture around my hotel and I do it by myself. It's a great way to relax. It's a great way to stay flexible, get the blood flowing. It's really going to benefit you from a strength training perspective, but even more importantly, it's going to keep you healthy so you can live a long career, hopefully, and a healthy one.